All right. Hey, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Colonel Adam Dykstra, Director of the Cyber Battle Lab. Two caveats. One caveat before I get started. I'm breaking the rules of public speaking. I actually think I saw one of my Captain's Career Course instructors floating around, and he may come take me out, but I've got a cough drop and water up here because it's back to school time here in Augusta. I've got 4 kids in school and a wife who teaches, so my house is a cesspool right now of disease and germs. And it's either I have this cough drop or I do this entire presentation via interpretive dance, which I don't think anyone wants. Walked in this morning, bit humid. And I was checking the news while I was walking in, because that's one of the things I do every day, check the news, listen to my podcasts. I saw that the inventor of the heat index had passed away. Did anybody else see that? 86 years old, but they said he felt 104. We're trying to see how many times we can use that joke throughout the week. So my purpose today is to walk you through how the Army is shifting away from what's known as the Army-focused warfighting experiments to the new concept-focused warfighting experiments. So why is that important to you? It's important because there's a different way now for vendors to get their equipment into the process. There's a different way to get your equipment into things like project convergence, and there's a different focus now for each of these concept-focused warfighting experiments. So it's important for both the green suiters and industry folks to understand. But as many of you know, today's battlefield is characterized by constant disruption and change and determined adversaries. For us, maintaining overmatch and the environment requires more than just incremental improvements. It demands a fundamental shift in how the Army is approaching experimentation. The goal is to build a more efficient and effective experimentation process that's directly tied to the Army's warfighting concept and that prepares us for the future battlefield. These experiments are designed, are aligned directly with the National Defense Strategy emphasis on integrated deterrence and the Army's commitment to modernization. These experiments are the engine that's driving the implementation of the Army's warfighting concept. So what does it look like? And I'm just gonna have to do that. Perfect. So as you look at the top half, or the left half with FY25 and then FY26, we had to be honest with ourselves across the Army that we had a problem. Our old model, the CFWE model, wasn't working. Now, let's just not to say that things like CyberQuest, the Cyber Battle Lab's CyberQuest event, wasn't valuable to the Army. It was, but across the Army, there was a lack of synchronization across the different areas. Different organizations were pursuing their own experiments in isolation with little to no integration, which resulted in this fragmented approach. And you can kind of see that represented on the left side by each one of the different battle labs and the events that they ran. These experiments weren't linked. It was difficult to build a comprehensive picture of what we were trying to do with the different technologies. And when that happened, then things like resourcing became very unpredictable. It was hard to justify investments when experiments weren't aligned with a clear overarching strategy. Senior leader involvement became inconsistent. And it was frankly, very difficult to demonstrate clear, actionable warfighting insights because the pieces just weren't coming together. We were collecting data, but not always translating that data into meaningful improvements for our soldiers. And that's the problem we're trying to solve with the CFWEs, is building a more cohesive, synchronized, and impactful experimentation process. Now, if you look at the right half, FY26, you'll see that all of this kicks off with the Future Studies program. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's a high-level Army war game that utilizes vignette-driven experimentation to examine how the Army forces can best set the conditions for the joint force as well as support the development and refinement of the Army 2030-2040 warfighting concept. And so as a very quick point of clarification, the Future Studies program feeds 1 year out from the fiscal year. So last year's Future Studies program in the fall will feed FY26 experimentation, and this year, this fall's will feed FY27. So then following the FSP, then you have the CFWEs and then the capstone, which I'll speak to on a later event. The big takeaways from this slide is we're building unity of effort, synchronizing experimentation across all of Army Futures Command, including all of our CDIDs and the CFTs. We're aiming to do less better, consolidating our efforts to enable deeper learning, and we're prioritizing top-down decision-making. Army senior leaders will set the priorities at the Future Studies programs, and then AFC and FCC senior leaders will shape the experimentation agenda throughout each of the different CFWEs and Project Convergence, ensuring that we remain concept-focused and concept-informed on the Army warfighting systems. This transition isn't just about changing what we do, but really how we're going to do it. So let's dive in a little bit. So the CFWEs are going to test the full range of Army capabilities in realistic free play environments and enabling leaders to make informed decisions about the future operational needs. We will take a greater focus on data-driven learning and adaptation, utilizing extensive data collection during live and simulated events to address Army warfighting concepts and identify capabilities for future experimentation. When experiments reveal capability or integration gaps, rapid adjustments to requirements or future experimentation is prioritized. These events are also going to use bottom-up innovation. There's a big emphasis on getting Army units to these events and putting the technology into the hands of the soldiers so that we can get direct feedback from each of the soldiers on the different technologies we're evaluating. And then there's also going to be an opportunity for international partner participation and creating opportunities for more of a joint and coalition interoperability. CFWEs will serve as an opportunity to demonstrate new and emerging technologies under operational conditions, assessing readiness for prime time adoption. Experimentation is not just about demonstration, it's a cultural shift towards agile, continuous learning and adaptation. So now as you look at the slide, you can see the timeline for each of these events. So the first one is the C2, Counter C2 CFWE. That one runs from late January into early February, followed right by the cross-domain CFWE, which runs to early March, and then the expanded maneuver, which is the very end of March until the middle of April. So to give you a little bit more on each of these, and I should also mention, you'll see that, of course, there's the different echelons at the top. Each of these different experiments is focused on technologies at that particular echelon. Not to say, and my team will take me out, via sniper rifle if I say this incorrectly, but there is opportunity to get other technologies from different echelons into these other exercises, but that is the primary focus for the exercises. So the C2, Counter C2 CFWE focuses on the complexities of command and control in the 21st century battlefield. We are operating in an environment while maintaining effective command and control while actively countering adversary C2 is paramount. The experiment is designed to improve our situational awareness, accelerate our decision-making, and ensure resilient communication networks. Simultaneously, it's about proactively disrupting the enemy's ability to do the same. It's not just about technologies, it's about optimizing our C2 systems, the people, process, networks, and command posts to enable commanders and staff to make decisions that drive operational advantage. We're looking to make both of our data and physical infrastructure more dynamic and responsive, accelerating target prosecution, and enabling faster, more informed action. It's about ensuring we maintain the initiative and achieve victory on the battlefield. The next one up is the cross-domain fires CFWE. This one focuses not exclusively on fire support, but it's about fundamentally changing how we employ fires, integrating lethal and non-lethal effects across the domains to achieve decisive advantage. Achieving this requires a number of things: advancing targeting solutions, precision-guided technologies, and seamless integration of all of our fire systems. This means not only being able to employ land-based fires in support of other domains, but also bringing fires and effects from those domains to bear in the land domain. Ultimately, cross-domain fires is about disrupting the enemy's ability to operate efficiently. With this event, we aim to learn how we're going to prevent them from successfully sensing, understanding, targeting, and destroying our forces, while simultaneously degrading their pace of operations. Critically, we will also target enemy human and autonomous capable decision makers by corrupting, poisoning, starving, or overwhelming their data they rely on to make sound decisions, fundamentally undermining their ability to command and control. The third CFWE is the expanded maneuver. This one, as I mentioned earlier, I'd spoken that they're done at echelon. So this one focuses on the brigade and below formations. It serves as a critical venue for small unit modernization. It provides capability developers, the S&T community, and our industry partners a repeatable, credible, and rigorous platform for operational experimentation, directly informing both concept and material development. This one, more so than some of the others perhaps, we're not just testing equipment, we're validating the future of how we fight. This event will provide operational insights into experimental objectives by exploring new concepts, organizations, training methods, and integrating prototype capabilities into an operational environment. Through live fire, standalone, and force-on-force phases, this event will tackle critical questions about the future battlefield. Specifically, we're investigating how commanders identify and exploit positions of advantage across all the domains, and how we maintain operational reach and expanded maneuver, and how we protect our vital logistic nodes over greater distances to sustain operations. Furthermore, we're exploring how expanded maneuver enables cross-domain fires to present multiple dilemmas to the enemy, and defining the required ranges and roles for autonomous vehicles and systems in the 2040 timeframe. The expanded maneuver CFWE isn't simply about extending our reach, it's about achieving a balanced and lethal force. Now, as you'll see along the bottom, we've got formation-based layered protection and agile sustainment. These are two critical elements that are now woven throughout all of the CFWEs. They didn't get their own CFWE, but there are elements of that are going to be sprinkled throughout. So a little bit on formation-based layer protection. This is all about enhancing the survivability of our formations, essentially making formations harder to detect, target, and disrupt. The old model of simply putting a bigger, thicker shield on every vehicle won't work anymore. Instead, we are creating a team of teams approach to defense. We're building a converged system where sensors, drones, robotics, and electronic warfare tools all work in concert. The key principle is that platforms protect each other, creating layers of defense against the enemy. As to agile sustainment, the focus with this is shifting from reactive to proactive and intelligent network sustainment via predictive analysis and real-time data integration, optimize resource allocation, ensuring forces have the capabilities they need when and where they need them. It means using predictive analytics and AI to know what a unit needs before the commander even knows he has to ask, and using advanced manufacturing to 3D print critical replacement parts, thousands of miles from the factory where they're made. Ultimately, this allows us to significantly reduce our sustainment footprint on the battlefield. A smaller, smarter logistic tail makes our entire force more maneuverable, survivable, and lethal. So all three of those events and the technologies from those events build into ultimately what's known as Capstone or Project Convergence. For those not familiar with Project Convergence, it is a demonstration of the draft Army warfighting concept in action, showcasing our advanced capabilities and testing our future concepts for the Army and our joint partners and our allies. The capstone builds upon years of previous persistent experimentation, integrating lessons learned from previous capstones, and focused warfighting experiments to inform our requirements, our organizations, and ultimately investment decisions by the Army senior leaders. The core objective of Project Convergence is to demonstrate how we achieve overmatch in a complex multi-domain environment. We're focused on enhancing situational awareness for optimal decision-making, employing disruptive counter C2 techniques, and integrating lethal and non-lethal fires to ensure survivability. Project Convergence 6, which will be this summer or next summer, it's really a critical step towards continuous transformation. By incorporating scenario-driven joint and combined operational perspectives, we will identify the capabilities, concepts, and formations needed to succeed on the future battlefield. The insights gained from this experiment will directly inform Army requirements and guide our modernization efforts, ensuring we remain a dominant force capable of deterring and defeating our adversaries. Project Convergence is not the end of the journey. It's a incredible, important milestone in our ongoing pursuit of a modern, agile, and lethal Army. So the question then is, if you're a vendor, and I apologize for the non-vendors in the room, but this is largely is geared towards the vendors and such. But the intent of this slide is to provide you with a roadmap of sorts for the technology submission process. I felt it important to do so because we cannot succeed in our modernization efforts without the deep and committed partnership of our industry. And as such, we have to be very clear on the submission process. So it starts with upper left corner, sam.gov. From there, your systems go into a system called Sparks. Sparks is a new DevCom effort focused on creating a more effective bridge between industry innovation and our modernization priorities. At its core, Sparks is designed to facilitate persistent, coordinated, and streamlined experimentation for the cutting-edge technologies industry has to offer. The fundamental purpose of this initiative is to simplify and unify what has been a fragmented process. For our industry partners, Sparks streamlines the application process into a single consolidated portal, making it easier than ever to submit technologies for consideration. For our Army experimentation stakeholders, it creates a comprehensive and searchable industry technology catalog, allowing them to find the exact capabilities needed for their events. More importantly, Sparks allows us to then track the maturity and progress of these technologies throughout the experimentation lifecycle, providing clear metrics. The ultimate intent is to enhance coordination, improve our ability to track promising systems, and ensure that the most effective technologies are aligned with our objectives and can be successfully transitioned to advance the capability of soldiers. So what essentially happens is once it goes from sam.gov to Sparks, then the system will move to, it will essentially get triaged, and the folks at DevCom will figure out who the right seated and ACMS capability managers are for that particular technology. I wanted to spend a little bit of time for those not familiar with what a seated and ACM are, and kind of spell that out, because that is kind of a critical process, and it's important to understand that in terms of capability development. So the seated serve as the architects to our future force. They lead the charge within the formations, identifying critical capability gaps through the rigorous analysis and wargaming, and then develop the holistic integrated .mil PF solutions to fill them. They don't do this in a vacuum, though. They're working hand in glove with the ACMs, which are just dedicated subject matter experts and stewards for each of the capability portfolios. The ACMs provide the critical link to the warfighter, ensuring that user feedback and operational lessons learned are woven into the fabric of everything that the CDs develop. If you've ever been out to any of the Cyber Battle Labs, Cyber Quest events, or Project Convergence, you'll see the ACM representation is quite heavy there, gathering useful information from the folks that are employing the technologies. Now, the question I think that some of you may be asking, or maybe not, but what are they looking for in terms of submissions? Well, it's important to know that, and I'm going to touch on learning demands here in a brief moment, but there's a few things that are just general across the board for all the technologies. So Military relevance, how well does it address a key Army requirement or capability gap? TRL level, so technology readiness level, is it mature enough for testing? Network integration, can it exist and can it integrate with our existing systems? Trainability, how difficult is it to train? Past performance of the vendor, and then conflicts of interest. Is there any competing events or efforts across the Army? On a much more, to a finer point, the ACMs judge equipment and technology based off of learning demands. So learning demands are the critical targeted questions we must answer to validate our concepts and guide our path forward. The learning demands are carefully echeloned across our campaign of learning. Broad strategic questions posed at the future study program level are deliberately broken down into more detailed technical questions that are rigorously tested in events like CFWEs and Project Convergence. Many of our learning demands actually, they continue on through CFWEs, or they will continue on through CFWEs into Project Convergence and perhaps even beyond. And some of ours actually grow as we learn more, or alternatively, as we see a new technology that perhaps a vendor showed us that showed some capability we weren't aware of, our learning demands can actually grow. These learning demands ensure that every experiment, every analysis, and every event is a deliberate step in a systematic journey of discovery, allowing us to continuously refine our concepts and improve our capabilities. Now, I did put a shameless plug, and you'll even see the shameless plug on the next slide, but I did put a shameless plug in for the Cyber Battle Lab. We have the capability of doing some essentially testing and evaluation in conjunction with vendors prior to CFWE events and prior to Project Convergence if needed, especially if perhaps your technology TRL level on your equipment, your item is not very well developed. We can do anything from TTXs to detailed EW or cyber evaluations and work with you to help you give you some of that feedback that you might need in advance of trying to get your system into a, say, a Project Convergence or a CFWE. On that note, I did want to kind of close out to just kind of, one of our team members asked me to really hit home on that upper left quadrant. So what does participation get you if you come to a CFWE or if you put your equipment into a Project Convergence? And it's really those four things: alignment, exposure, validation, and feedback. The value comes from the immediate and candid, realistic feedback from the end user. It creates a rapid and iterative cycle of learning, allowing industry to refine and adapt their capabilities in real time. Furthermore, the collaboration goes beyond the technology itself. It directly influences our path forward. By participating, industry gains early insights into our most pressing operational gaps, which in turn help to shape our future requirements and our acquisition strategies. And then, of course, I threw in my shameless plug at the bottom for the Cyber Battle Lab. We are always essentially open and looking for business. So if you do want to bring your technologies down and showcase them at Fort Gordon, we have the capability and capacity to do so. We've even started to move in to a certain extent into the realm of AI. So if there's something if you want to showcase and you don't know that you're necessarily ready to bring it to a Project Convergence or a CFWE, reach out to me. I put my email on the bottom there. I also included, I have up front some of the flyers that are on the right side, which is a little bit more detailed version of how to get into Sparks. But that really wraps up my presentation. If you have any questions, my team in the front row would be happy to answer them. Questions, comments, concerns, anything? No? Oh, I got one. Thank you.
So, what are you looking for right now? What's your gaps?
Yes, so that's great. So I'll give you one big one that's being worked on right now. And I'll point you to the person, if you're looking at EW stuff, EW equipment, the person you're looking for is Colonel Leslie Gorman. She's ACM EW. And I can certainly give you the names, and my team can give you the names and contact information for the other ACMs. But the big one right now, if you're not aware, is the data pilot. And I'm going to give you the 10,000-foot view of the data pilot for EW. The question is, we're going to put a number of EW systems out into the field in the next number of years. How do we ensure that, if you've paid attention to anything in Ukraine, you'll see that the spectrum changes on a daily basis, and that we have, adversaries, UAVs, for instance, they'll change the spectrums that they're operating on. So one day you may be jamming an EW, and the next day, or a UAV, and the next day that jamming doesn't work. The EW data pilot is looking at a number of things. How do we take the data from the EW systems out there and feed it into a bigger picture so we can see what's going on within that particular AOR as far as the spectrum? How do we rapidly update the capabilities or we'll say the sets inside of EW, inside the EW systems, so that they can rapidly adjust to the EW environment that they're in. And then, I think long-term, we're even looking at how can we do AI forward on those systems so that we don't even have to bring the data back, that we can do that rapidly on the systems. The EW data pilot right now is probably one of the bigger efforts that we have going on across the CFWE and Cyber C did. Sure.
Yeah. Big Lockhart. So how does this process tie into the tick process and that whole range of engaging with units as well?
Yep, great question. And if there was a great answer to give you, I would give it. I'm gonna not answer your question, but I'm gonna give you some data points that probably will. So if you're not aware, AFC and TRADOC underwent a divorce a number of years ago, became two separate four-star commands. The Army has decided to force a marriage. And I think we're going to see in probably the next 6 months some answers to those questions. Because we've, quite frankly, in the tree fort of trust, that is this room, we've asked the same questions. There seems to be two different paths, but right now I would say is both paths will get you to, can offer viable routes to product selection. One though, I would say, if you were asking me, I would say that the tick events are for extreme, we're tweaking just a few little things left on that device before we're ready to try and get it into production versus the CFWEs and project convergence, which are probably slightly lower down on the TRL level. But
So for the CFWEs, you're talking maybe 5, 6, 7, and for the tick events, maybe 8, 9, something like that?
yeah, I think that's probably fair. I'm getting a thumbs up. I think that's generally what we're seeing. Although to be frank, we are seeing, I think, some 8 and 9 level TRL stuff going to CFWEs.
Just to add that, I think it really depends on whether it's hardware or software. With the rapid coding cycle of opportunity, low TRL software can rapidly get over those bumps and get into it. If we're looking at the CFWEs, I would suggest, that's 6 asthma either side is a perfect opportunity. It allows us to do the work to integrate into a larger system. Certainly that transformation contact part, yes, you're getting the user feedback. There's almost a prerequisite that you're already integrated into that network because the underlying system is already installed.
Yep. Sure.
Talk a little bit more about those tick events.
Yeah, so transformation and contact events, right? So the Army has designated a number of units as tick units, and they've identified them. And I don't have it on me, otherwise I would show it, but there's a calendar of events for all of these different tick events. And so what will happen is the vendors will bring their technology and the units will employ it. I think the big difference, if you're asking me, because I've not been to a tick unit event, but I have been to Project Convergence. Project Convergence allows the operator a little bit more opportunity, and the CFWEs will allow a little bit more opportunity for exploring that technology, for playing with it, for testing it out. The intent with a TIC event is that they're not there to test your equipment. They're there to do their actual, warfighter training. And so if you're going to a TIC event, Dykstra's 2 cents, right? If you're going to a TIC event, you're not really going there to get your equipment evaluated. You're really going there to just make sure it gets the thumbs up and it's ready to go. Because, it's been a while, but I was a former warfighter at one point. If the system doesn't work, they're just going to toss it to the side and they're going to stop using it. Whereas a CFWE or Project Convergence allows a little bit more flexibility to play with it. Oh, we need to get it a little bit higher up, or we need to make some tweaks to it, and it gives you an opportunity to do some more testing. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. Oh, and don't forget to grab a flyer if you want one.